Welcome to my channel Worldwide. A woman once appeared in Judge Frank Caprio's courtroom and immediately began misbehaving with him. She said bluntly that she would not pay the fine and that he could do whatever he wanted. Judge Caprio told her that he could set up a payment plan to make it easier for her to pay the fine, but her attitude was extremely rude. She repeated, "Do whatever you want, I still won't pay." Judge Frank Caprio, who is known worldwide for his compassion and kindness, lost his temper in the courtroom for the very first time. This courtroom proceeding was never published, but Caprio later mentioned it in his book. What happened afterward completely changed his life forever. Who could have imagined that a boy who polished people's shoes while attending school would one day be known as the world's nicest judge? Watching Frank Caprio's rulings, it's hard to guess the deep wounds hidden behind his smiling, compassionate face. Frank Caprio was the Chief Judge of Providence, Rhode Island's Municipal Court. From 1985 to 2023, he served for 38 continuous years, fulfilling his duty to deliver justice. He became famous through a reality TV show called Caught in Providence, where traffic violation cases were handled, things like illegal parking, overspeeding, or running a red light. But unlike most judges, Frank Caprio always tried to resolve cases with humor, kindness, and empathy. Sometimes, he would let children accompanying the defendants give the ruling, turning the courtroom into a lighthearted scene. Other times, he would hug the defendants, sharing in their pain. One day, a 96-year-old man appeared in his court for speeding in a school zone. When Judge Caprio asked why he was speeding, the old man's eyes filled with tears. He explained that he was rushing his 63-year-old son to the hospital because he had blood cancer. Without wasting a moment, Caprio dismissed the case with no fine, and wished the man well. This cheerful and compassionate approach won admiration not just in America, but across the world. Judges in other countries even declared Frank Caprio their role model. But behind his smile was a painful story that had shaped him into the man he became. In 2023, after retiring, Frank Caprio was diagnosed with cancer. During this time, he began writing his book Compassion in the Court, which was published in 2025. The roots of Caprio's compassion lay in a story about his grandparents. His grandparents were illiterate when they migrated from Italy to Providence. Life was so tough that his grandfather earned a living by pushing a fruit cart. One day, after drinking with friends and causing a disturbance, he was arrested by police. Frank's grandmother borrowed money from neighbors and went to court to get him released. She offered the money to the judge, speaking in broken English. With her was her young son, nicknamed Tup, who knew a little English. The judge called Tup over and said, "Take your parents home, they are free." When Tup explained this to his mother, she walked out of court blessing the judge. That little boy, Tup, was none other than Judge Frank Caprio's father, Antonio Caprio Jr., whom everyone lovingly called Tup. Frank Caprio often said that although this case happened before he was even born, whenever he saw immigrants in his courtroom, he remembered his grandparents and did everything possible to ensure they were not mistreated. His father Tup had to leave school in 7th grade to support the family. They lived in a cramped flat without hot water, where 12 people shared one room lit by a single lamp. Sometimes poverty was so dire that they didn't even have scraps of cotton in their pockets. Frank Caprio was born on November 24, 1936, and grew up in that same small, cold-water flat with his father Tup and mother Philomena. If he wanted to take a shower, he had to travel miles. His father tried various small businesses but failed during the Great Depression. Eventually he found work in milk distribution, and young Frank helped him. At the age of 8, Frank went to deliver milk to the home of a wealthy man, whose son was his schoolmate. Hungry, he smelled toast from inside the house. When the door opened, he saw his schoolmate crying at the breakfast table. Frank thought he might be invited to join, but instead, the father scolded his son, pointing at Frank, saying, "Be thankful for your luck, otherwise you'd be like this boy carrying milk in the snow." This deeply hurt little Frank, and even 80 years later, he wrote about it word for word in his book. Despite his hardships, like sharing one milk-soaked blanket with his brother on freezing nights while rats came to lick the cream off it, Frank was happy, because his upbringing gave him strength. At age 16, his father told him, "One day you will be a lawyer, but remember, never charge the poor." Frank took many part-time jobs, delivering milk, distributing newspapers, setting up bowling pins, waiting tables, and even polishing shoes on the roadside, to support himself through high school. He made it to college, a huge achievement for a poor family. Out of 45 cousins, only Frank and one other made it to higher education. He dreamed of attending Boston Law School but couldn't afford it, so he taught during the day and studied law at night in another university. One day a classmate dropped him home and seeing his poor apartment said, "If you want to be a successful lawyer, you can't live in a place like this." Frank quietly thanked him, but the comment stayed with him forever. After becoming a lawyer, Caprio even ran for attorney general, but false accusations of ties to organized crime ended his political career. He returned to practicing law. One day, while having lunch, the mayor of Providence called him and said that a municipal judge's seat had opened and that Frank was the perfect candidate. It was one of the happiest moments of his life, and for his parents too. Frank had been a wrestling champion, and his father Tup never missed his matches. On his very first day as a judge, Tup was present in court. The first case was that same rude woman with several parking tickets. She refused to pay, saying she had children to feed. Frank set her up with a payment plan, but she remained defiant, saying she would never pay. For the first time, Judge Caprio lost his temper and ordered her car booted. After court, his father Tup scolded him, asking how that woman would now take her kids to school or buy groceries. On his very first day, Tup was disappointed in him. That moment became a turning point in Frank's life. He decided that before passing judgment, he would always consider how his ruling would affect the families involved. He later said, "That scolding from my father taught me what 5 years of law school never did." Frank later created a donation fund named after his mother, the Philomena Fund, to help those unable to pay fines. The show Caught in Providence came about because Frank's brother Joe loved filming, and one day decided to record the court proceedings. Though Frank initially opposed the idea, Joe convinced him. The show first aired on local TV, but after clips were uploaded online, it spread worldwide. Through this, Judge Caprio became celebrated as the nicest judge in the world, admired for his compassion, kindness, and fairness. After 38 years of service, Frank Caprio resigned in January 2023. A few months later, he revealed he was battling cancer. On August 20th, 2025, he appeared from his hospital bed asking fans for prayers. The next day, August 21st, 2025, he passed away. He left behind courtroom memories that teach us compassion, kindness, justice, and the importance of controlling our anger. My next video, watching now.